Well, hello and welcome to Consider This Program. I am your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Angi Kinser.
We are happy to have you along on this crazy election day. I don't know if you've been watching or not. Angi, I was at the polls at 5:21 this morning. They don't open up until 6 o'clock. Yes, we do this live on Tuesday evenings, by the way. If you're hearing this on the radio or a podcast show later on, you can always join us on Tuesday evenings, 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I showed up at 5:21. There's already 20 cars. By the time I was out and left, there were about 250 people in line. How long were you in line?
4.5 hours.
4.5 hours?
Yes, I did not anticipate that. I knew it would be, a bigger turnout, but it was my daughter's first time she's just turned 19 years old. It's her first election. So we planned to go together at 10 o'clock, and apparently that wasn't the best time. Well, actually, it was just as busy.
It was not that busy at 5:21, I assure you. You just would have had to wait 40 minutes. But that's okay. I can just see Ava's little eyes. Well, honey, we're going to leave the house at 5:15 to be there at 5.
Yeah, no, I wasn't going to have.
She might have missed her first time of voting, but you seem to have some voting or election trivia.
I have some interesting election facts. One, the U.S., we head to the polls on Tuesday, but most of the rest of the world prefers to vote on Sunday. So we're the only ones who vote on Tuesdays.
So I did know about the Tuesday. I didn't know about the Sunday.
Yes, everyone else
I've never
votes
voted
on
anywhere
Sundays.
else, though. Surprise.
Okay. India has over 800 million eligible voters, which makes it the world's largest democracy. Sometimes it takes weeks or even months for them when they hold their election.
Yeah. Now that part's true. There's a lot of, most elections never go as smooth as what is frustrating as this one may be. Most of them don't go anywhere near this smooth.
Voting in Australia, if you're over 18 and do not vote, you will be fined.
Ooh.
And I've got to throw this one in because I know we don't have time for all of them, but it says some governments get creative when it comes to literacy as an issue. Gambia, they cast votes by dropping marbles into a color-coded barrel with pictures of the candidates on them.
Well, there you go. Now, if you just knew that. I still think there ought to be a test you ought to have to take over people's views. You ought to be able to give this question, and whichever question you think is the right answer, that's where your vote gets cast, whether it has a person's face or not. That way you get rid of the ads, you get rid of the garbage, and you have to know the viewpoint or you're not allowed to vote. Just the way I see it.
Yes.
Hey, you're listening to Consider This Program. I am so happy to have you along. If you got a question or comment, you can give us a call at 800-928-4001. Go to our website at yourlifeafterwork.com. And the very famous Grant Sullivan, one of our senior advisors, is online right now. If you've got a question, you can put it in on Facebook or our website. He will get the question to Angi, and we will go from there. We'll take a break and be right back at the show. Hey guys, so glad to have you all along. We're getting ready to have a good friend of mine, John Braddock, join us. In fact, I'm going to have Andy bring him on here in just a second before we go back live, so I can see his smiling face from the Scottsdale, Arizona area. Anyhow, we're going to talk about his company, Life and Wishes, and I'm going to let him walk through a little bit of his story. As you know, you guys who get to watch this live stream get to actually ask the question. So go ahead and email them in if there's something that you want to know. I'm going to let John do a lot of the talking in this segment, and Angi being able to ask him the questions. But John, I see you up there, buddy. Can you hear me okay?
How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm not hearing you at all. That's why we were doing this test before we did it. Oh, that's because I didn't turn the pack on. That would be the DJ.
Yep.
That would be me making that error. Hold on a second. Talk to me, John.
Can you hear me now?
I can barely hear you now, but I can't hear you.
Turn it up. I can hear him.
I see why. It's not plugged all the way in the hole. I got it. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Real well. I'm sad I'm not seeing you in Scottsdale here this week.
Oh, I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
It is, but you're looking good, and I'm sure I will see you online here this week. For those of you guys who don't know, John and I are in a mastermind group. We see each other a few times a year, and I have to fly out to Scottsdale. He drives across town and to Tempe, and everybody's happy. So, anyhow, you all ready to go? Tell me about real quickly, and we'll do it again when we're starting the show. But tell me about the new book.
Um, Boy, I wish I had a new book, but it's just the current
that's
book
why I
that we
said I
have.
didn't.
I said your newest book that you have is the Click Here When I Die. 2017.
Yeah,
That's the same book that we talked about. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I thought
absolutely.
there was something new that I didn't know about. Since Joe is telling us everybody has to do something
Well,
new.
we went way back to My Life and Wishes is what we had talked about the first time. So this time we're
Gotcha.
going to mention the newer book.
All right. Well, you guys are in charge. I'll set you up, Angie and John, and you can go from there. All right, Casey. Well, good morning and welcome back to Consider This Program. I am your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Angi Kinser.
We're happy to have you along. Hey, we've got a good friend of mine, John Braddock, and just a wonderful, wonderful human who's been through an event that changed his life, his wife's life, and now he's taken some of that strategy and ideas and is bringing it to you. So, John, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you along, my friend. I'm going to turn it over to Angie and let her ask you some questions and just get the show on the road.
Well, I think where we should start is, John, can you fill us in a little bit about My Life and Wishes and let our audience know what that is?
Yes, absolutely. My Life and Wishes is a online, secure education, storage, and planning platform for your life. So, as an example, when a person dies or passes away, there's usually a tremendous amount of work left for the family. A lot of loose ends, trying to track down insurance policies, copies of wills or trusts, other documents. More importantly today, login access and passwords to their various accounts. And without that knowledge or information, it can be a scavenger hunt on steroids that creates a tremendous amount of pain for families. So what our platform does, it allows you to store and secure all this information. So literally, if I don't make it home this evening, at the touch of a button, my family will have access to everything that they need to know.
And what inspired that? What got you to do that?
Well, interesting. As you know, Joe, I have a background in financial services area, and my wife and I had a company together in Wisconsin. And in 2013, her father, who lived about a half a mile up the street from us, passed away unexpectedly. And what ensued from that point was this scavenger hunt that I mentioned earlier, which took us minimally 10 months to get through and find everything. Ted, God rest his soul, was a wonderful man, but he was a saver. And, the good news, bad news. The good news is he saved everything. The bad news, it took months to dig through that information, to finally find a will, to find the insurance policies that were still active. Sadly, we had to call numerous insurance companies from policies that we had found to find out whether or not those policies were actually even in force. And then trying to access his online presence. He was an old IBM guy, so he used the computer frequently. But we couldn't log into accounts where he did bill pay, auto draft, and those things. And as you know, most of us today don't get bills from our utility company, the cable company, in our physical mailbox. They show up in our inbox. Which took an enormous amount of time to track down and log in. And
Right.
So it inspired me as I was thinking through this, that, everyone is going to pass, and our lives, especially now in this digital age, have become so much more complicated. There had to be an easier way for families to access that information and do it quickly without having the added stress, frustration, and anxiety that comes along during a time when they should just be dealing with their grief.
So what's a good way for people to be able to reach out to you and to find out more about My Life and Wishes?
Oh, you bet. And as you know, Joe, I'm an open door. My email is John, Jon, at mylifeand is spelled out, Andy, mylifeandwishes.com. I respond to all my email when it comes from people. So if they have questions, they can reach out. They can also go to mylifeandwishes.com, where our website has a video, a slew of information, helpful resources, and checklists that people can download just to help guide them. Our mission is, as you know, our mission is to help 1 million families avoid this inevitable scavenger hunt that awaits them. So we're trying to just reach out and be as helpful as we can.
This is the second time we've had John on the show, and it's because we find his information and his package so useful. One of the things that I do in the trust programs that we work on is the wish list, if you will. It's language that's added to the trust that says, these are my wishes, and we make it very, very clear. So it goes well with what John is talking about and some of the things there. So Angi, go ahead.
Why do you think most people avoid end-of-life planning?
Well, it's interesting because I get various response when I speak to groups, and sometimes it's, well, I have time. Well, yeah, maybe you do, but I don't own that crystal ball. I don't know when my last day will be here. This is not taxes. I don't wait until the 15th of April to file those. But I think the other is that I think people think it's a daunting process that, oh my gosh, it's going to take forever to get all this stuff pulled together and in one place, and they just tend to put it off. And so what I tell people is use a weight loss analogy when you do this kind of planning. Okay, if you want to drop 20 pounds and you go to the gym and the trainer there says, you know what, tomorrow morning you'll wake up 20 pounds lighter. You run, because that won't happen, right? Just like this, you can't have your whole digital end-of-life plan done by tomorrow morning. But that trainer back at the gym, if he said to me, he said, John, you want to drop 20 pounds? Here's what we're going to do. 2 months from now, you can wake up and you will be 20 pounds lighter. And we're going to do a little bit tomorrow and a little bit the next day. And each week as we go forward, and boom, it's going to happen. So don't look at the big process as this massive thing that has to be done overnight, but break it down into small steps. A little bit this week, a little bit the following, and 6 to 8 weeks from now, people will have their plan in place.
Hey, you're listening to Consider This Program, and along with us tonight, a guest, good friend of mine, John Braddock. You can find out more about him at mylifeandwishes.com. Go there. And here's the deal. When we look at the 5 critical elements, the 5 areas, Angi, that we've identified that can really make it or break it for people financially. Your life after work, the annual tax plan, the investment playbook, the things that happen, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And last but not least is the legacy plan. And, there are few places that I know where you can go and have an organized approach to that end-of-life planning, you will. And I think what John provides is great. We've got a few of his books left in our office, Angi, I'm pretty sure. So if you call Angi at 800-928-4001, we can still get you a book for perhaps, depends on the number of calls. When they're out, they're out.
Yeah.
But don't forget you can email John as well and go from there.
One last question. Do you have any advice, like say how to approach older parents who don't necessarily talk about their finances, even though this would be a great idea for you, like as the beneficiary? How would you bring that up?
Oh, what a great question. And, I hear that so often, and it's hard because my parents are in their mid to late 80s. And it's a tough question. How do you get them to talk about it? Well, we're coming into the holiday time, and this could be a good time because we are going to be hopefully together with our families, depending on what COVID allows, right? But, I think the best thing to do is to just have a very calm conversation saying, look, when something happens to one of you or both of you, we're going to have to figure things out. which can be very time consuming and costly, frankly, because you live on the other side of the state or the other side of the country. And so we want to make it as efficient as possible. Have you guys written down kind of all your wishes? Have you logged this stuff somewhere? Start with the probing questions instead of saying, hey, mom and dad, we need to know this information now. Take it, a much softer, smoother route. Have you talked to someone? Have you written this stuff down? Who is your financial advisor? Who's your estate planning attorney? At least, is there someone we can contact, God forbid something happens, so that, we can ease our burden? Because as I speak with people and they say, well, why should we get this planning done? My advice is this. I just ask a question. What do you want the experience to be like for your family after you're gone?
Well put, my friend.
And I think none of us want it to be bad.
Yeah. No, but nobody wants it there. When we look at and I don't know if you know this, John, or not, but we've got it set up so we can be the trustee for people's trust this year. The Financial Enhancement Group can, as a corporate trustee, if you will. And one of my big objectives and reason I push so hard on that is to take care of people when they become incapacitated, not just when they're gone, but it really is to be your advocate during your life, and then the person who helps get that life, the legacy, the wishes out. But nobody can do that. Me, any other trustee, nobody can do that unless we know what your goals and objectives are, what your wishes are. Yeah. And I think this is an easy way. John's got a program put in place to take baby steps. There's no revenue share. I don't make any money off of what John does. I'm just telling you, I think this is a good program for people to look at. My wishes, mylifeandwishes.com, pardon me. And you can reach out to John there. Buddy, we certainly appreciate you having you on the show.
Oh, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And just to tie off that last thing about talking to parents, if you're not sure how to talk to them, grab a copy of my book that Joe mentioned, which is called Click Here When I Die. It's not a Debbie Downer. It's my sort of irreverent sense of humor on a serious topic. And it's a short read. And if they read that book, they'll probably take action.
We got to take a break. Hold on, John, just for a second. For our radio people, they've got to go. For you guys that are online live, we got a couple more minutes. So, John, go ahead and finish your thought.
The book, I think, is an easy way for people to be able to get their family or parents who are elderly to have that conversation with them. Because feedback we've gotten early from our book is that when someone has read it, they've handed it off to someone else who's been in kind of a situation with an incapacitated or sick elderly person, and it's been an aha moment for them where they've said, okay, now we really need to get this stuff together because we really haven't thought about it. So could be a softer way to get mom and dad to open up and do a little planning.
Totally agree. Hey, brother, we appreciate you being with us here on election night. I pray for civil rest as opposed to unrest this evening. Stay safe, and it's always good to see your face. John Braddock, mylifeandwishes.com. Take care, my friend. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Hey, guys, thanks for being out there and for any of the thoughts and questions and comments. If you've got anything that you want to know, you can give Angi a call at 800-928-4001. Get one of John's books. Figure out how things are going, and there's other ways to do it. I like John's program just because it is simple and it is secure, and there's a place to be able to store data, and it's a solution that that we're always looking for and working for families that we take care of, especially as we enter more and more of that trustee type work as a corporate trustee. It's important you understand that it really is the corporate side, FEG, not Joe as an individual. somebody in the corporation serves as the trustee. Right now, that happens to be me, but it's FEG, not Joe Clark. That is the trustee that goes inside of your trust. There was some confusion over that last week, so I wanted to make sure that it was clear. All right, Angie, what's up next?
We're going to talk about tips for surviving your spouse's retirement.
This is a fun one.
I know.
Are you ready? All right, Casey. Well, good morning and welcome back to Consider This Program. I'm your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Angi Kinser.
Happy to have you along. Hey, we are here on election night. Yes, we do this live every Tuesday evening from 5 to 6 p.m. You can watch the video of Angie and I bicker back and forth as brother and sister. And every now and then, gets a little bit, a little bit brother and sisterly more maybe than it should. But it's election night. And it's been a long day. I was at the polls at 5:21 a.m. this morning. Angie waited outside of hers for a little over 4 hours. We are happy to say that we voted. There's a lot of chaos that's probably taking place by the time that you're listening to this. If you're listening to a podcast, hopefully it is peaceful chaos. That is all I can say. Let's talk about that.
Okay, so we're going to talk about, tips for surviving your spouse's retirement. And speaking of disagreements that we have, here's a agree or disagree statement for you. After money, the single most common worry about retirement is how it will impact your marriage.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt. We have watched, this is my 30, I guess I'm on my 33rd year of doing this professionally. I started 2 weeks before the crash in 1987. We have now passed that. So I'm 33 years into of dealing with people's money, which means you deal with people's lives. And we got our own very own experience with this year. Barb was able to stay home with the kids. She's still she spends a couple days a week working with special needs kids at the school, but that program has been halted because of the COVID virus. So Barb's been able to stay and help me at the home office with things that I need to get done with my schedule. And I clearly put a monkey wrench in her system. When my routines changed of what I did, I have to acknowledge and understand that it changed the routines that she had too. Mm-hmm. And over the 33 years that I've done this, I have seen a few marriages, very rarely, only in one instance can I think of people that we actually took care of, but people around us in our lives that seem to have great relationships and great marriages. One of them was 35 years of being married, and all of a sudden, they're going through divorce, and the only thing that really changed was he retired. And when you walk into the house and you're doing something different, I kid you not, Angie, many conversations included the "You really need to get back to the office."
I bet.
I said, I love you, but I hate butts.
Well, you're a big personality, so I'm sure that her in her little smooth routine,
anyhow,
it was probably shaken up a little bit.
It very, very possibly so.
Well, do you think it's harder for spouses, who've really devoted most of their time and energy to their career? I mean, is it harder for them if they kind of have their identity in their work to retire?
You have two things here, without this being sexist, because I'm sure somebody will take it that way. Please don't. But it's an old joke that we have it probably shouldn't be called a joke. It's a real thing. You can ask a female what she does, and the common response is, I'm a mom, I've got 2 kids, I've been married for 25 years, and I'm a neurosurgeon, right? Or you can ask a man what he does, and, I'm a gardener, that has been married, that has 2 kids, mm-hmm. right? It's, there is, when it comes to work, there is no question in typical identity work. There is no question that men tend to associate themselves more with their career. Women tend to associate themselves more with their family. Obviously, we both know people who are on different sides of that, of those sexes, but that's the typical part. In this case, I'm not so sure that it matters. Now, here's where I will tell you that it mattered in our world, because I am so attached to my career. I mean, this is my passion. It is my purpose in terms of helping people reduce financial regrets. It's what I think about all of the time. And I had to build a box around my life. So I know when I could get up in the morning pre-COVID, I know when I get up in the morning, I know what I did at first thing. I know when I did my workout. I know when I got to the office. And I know when I got home, I was allowed to check email one more time and turn it off. So typically by 6 or 7:30, unless you and I were out doing an event, that's what Barb could expect. And so she was able to develop a routine around that. When I wasn't allowed to leave the house and, the office didn't change and I didn't go anywhere, it'd be 9, 10, 11, midnight, and I would still be there working, because I lost that part of my life. And it's easy for you guys that are listening are probably able to go, well, that probably wasn't so easy on your wife. You should have known better. Well, it's not that simple, right? So there's some things you can do, Angie, as you transition, as you're going. One of the things we talk about with people is a retirement practice year. And when we talk about that, we're typically talking financially. In this case, we're actually talking on the emotional side of it, where you actually communicate, here's what I intend to do. So I can give you a little bit of a pre-warning.
Yes.
Right.
There was a quote when I was doing my research from the American Psychological Association. It said, "What is the key to smooth retirement? Tend to your psychological portfolio as much as your financial one."
And I would have to concur. I knew, I don't know why I knew how to do it, but when Barb and I first met, people think it's funny and some people think it's mean and bad, but it is what it is. I made her name every quarterback in the NFL. And that's because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to spend the rest of my Sundays, wishing that I was at football games and watching football with somebody who hated football. And I figured if she named all the quarterbacks in the NFL, that at least she would have an understanding of what was going on in the game. Turned out she was a diehard Bears fan. This is long before the Colts got here. So, we were both the 85 Bears and the Super Bowl Shuffle fans. So it all worked out great. But have those conversations, folks, so that you don't get lost and go from what you think is going to be a fun thing into a dark hole, which does happen to people.
I had a little list of ways to help prepare, and that was the first thing on there, which is share your vision of what you want your retirement to look like, which is the first thing we ask for from a family is their financial vision.
When people come in, that is getting a clarification of where it is you want to go so that we can try to help make sure that you stay on that road is important. And that would be the same thing with retirement.
Yes. Number 2 is discuss how much time you'll spend together. Then
and more is not necessarily better, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just one of the things that you have to pay attention to is there are people, especially the one not leaving the workforce, there are people who are used to having their own alone time, and they need to still have an allotment of alone time. And I found myself sitting when I'm at the house and I'm locked up because of a silly virus. And Barb's in the other room going, "Where are you?" And, well, she's doing what she would normally do if I wasn't there.
Well, and I noticed too from the article this week that there are some decisions that you just automatically made that she was used to making. And so what this said is, 1, talk about how your roles will change, and 2, renegotiate household chores and responsibilities.
You can do the renegotiation, enter that very carefully, I would say. But what I tried to make and put into the article, and I write a column, for those of you who don't know, for the local newspaper, the Herald Bulletin. And you can get that sent to you along with the market card if you just go to our website and sign up for that, yourlifeafterwork.com, or call Angie. She can get you on the list, and it will automatically go to your inbox every week. But one of the things that is important is to recognize decisions that other people are used to making. Now, there is a subset of our population who wish they didn't have to make any decisions at all. Mm-hmm. And so for some of them, this is no problem. But especially for the men, again, I can name a couple women where this has been the case, but I can name a lot of men, especially that have left roles of supervision, right? Where I don't know how many decisions a day that I have to make. But I'm responsible for 29 of the Financial Enhancement Group team, more than 1,100 families that we take care of, more than $500 million of assets that we manage. I have to make big decisions all day long. Mm-hmm. And what happens is if I retired or if I left the workforce, I can tell you the chemicals don't stop. My mind is going to believe I have to still make decisions. right? And so all of a sudden you find grown-up men getting mad at the mailman for not being there at 10 a.m., and showing up at 10:30 and what, what's gone wrong? What is right with and you don't want to be that guy. So anyhow.
So the last two one was create a new budget and monitor finances together.
Now that's something you really, if you're given the opportunity, and not everybody does, but if you're given the opportunity, you want to have that retirement practice year where you build that budget. Even if you're not used to having a budget, you want to build a budget. You want it to be divided between fixed and social expenses. I'm sure we have a checklist for that. If we don't, we should probably make one. But that's one of those things that we're more than happy to have you come in, have a next steps meeting. You can call Angi at 800-928-4001 and say, hey, I want to have my next steps meeting. It's complimentary. We sit down with you. One of my team will go through the 5 critical elements that we talked about. We'll give you things you need to consider today, things you're going to want to consider in the future. And if we choose to partner together, what FEG will do for you, and we'll put it in writing. And that's our promise to you. It's a next steps commitment, if you will, or promise that we'll do. So there's 2 reasons why you have that retirement budget together. The first one is to understand that retirement practice year, Angi. But the second one is many times the person that goes first mentally or physically or passes away is the one who took the responsibility for the money management and the bills. Yep. More often than not, I tend to see that person be the one who goes first, again, mentally or physically. And it's one of the reasons why we offer being able to be the FEG, to be the trustee, if you will, if you're a trust from a corporate side, of being able to be that financial trustee and a family friend to helping make decisions, working with your loved ones to be able to understand what needs to happen to money going forward.
The last tip is pursue some of your own interest and maintain some separate friendships.
Yeah, what I've experienced in life is there's some people, that have had a lot of relationships outside with other people, and some that all the friends are together. So I don't know how to answer that one.
Well, when you said more time isn't necessarily better.
Well, yes, that's true. But sometimes that's alone. Leave me alone when I'm reading my book, and when I get up in the morning, leave me alone with my Kindle.
And I don't know if Barb's ever going to take up golf.
Probably not. 800-928-4001. We'll be right back. Yeah, I don't. Barbara takes up driving the golf cart. She's more than happy to do that, and goes out with us. And she loves that. I mean, she thoroughly enjoys it. So that I don't. It's when I look back, I can't tell you that I've seen better relationships or worse relationships just because they've been one way or the other. There are some people that have their girlfriends and the guy friends, and they go to different trips and to different places. And some that could not imagine being apart. Howard Webb, he's passed away, but he lived next door to me when I was in Italy in 1991, and got pickpocketed by a gypsy lady with a baby, and got stranded inside in Rome with no money, no passport, no train ticket, no plane ticket. Howard Webb got me, loaned Barb the money, and it got wired to me so that I could get out of Rome and get back home. And I remember him telling me, and there are several things he told me that in a car ride, but one of the things he said is when he went to World War II and fought, his promise to himself to get back was he would never spend another night without Ruby. Aww. And I took that to heart. And so you know how many days a year I have to be gone and the work stuff that we do, but I try to make sure that Barb at least has the opportunity to go if she wants to. Now, me being in a meeting from sun up to way into the sundown sounds fun. When I tell you that I'm going to Scottsdale for a meeting, everybody goes, "Oh, you poor guy." And then they go live it once and they go, "Oh, you poor guy." We go to nice places to sit in hotel rooms to do meetings. But it is my life. I chose it, not complaining. But it's anyhow, understand the complications and the challenges with being married and all of a sudden changing your routine. You have to understand, good old, I think it was Einstein, right? The theory of relativity. Every action has an opposite and equal reaction. Every time I change a routine, it does impact Barb.
Yep.
There ain't no way around it. All right, what's next?
Inheriting appreciated assets.
Aha. And what are we going to talk about in that area?
Well, one, we're going to mention our checklist that we now have for that. But we're going to talk how considerations for leaving assets behind and how these type of assets are different from others.
Gotcha. All right, Casey. Welcome back to Consider This Program. I am your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Angi Kinser.
Happy to have you along. Hey, one of the challenges that you're going to have in life is you are either going to leave something behind for somebody else, or you're going to get it from somebody else. That means somebody is going to die, somebody else or you. Pick one. We can look at it either way. You will inherit assets or you will leave them behind almost always, especially if you're taking the time to listen to the show. Bottom line is we don't know what day God is calling us home. There will be something left behind, either for your parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle. I've had the neighbor be the person who's left gifts behind before, or it's going to be you that's passing away and leaving on to your spouse, your kids, or whatever. We've had a slew of questions with the tax code change between what happened with the Secure Act at the end of 2019, effective 2020. Much of it delayed because of the CARES Act that came out March 27th. We've had a lot of questions that were asked. So we put together what, Angi?
A checklist.
A checklist. Why a checklist? We want to make it simple. So here is our process. The Financial Enhancement Group operates as a team. Now, I will tell you in the industry, when the financial services industry, when you hear the word team, what that typically means is there's a younger guy buying an older guy's business over a period of time. So when I look at a lot of the big wirehouses and a lot of the bigger brand names that you will inside of the financial world, really what I look at them as or view them as is little franchises inside a big corporation. So it's a little McDonald's that may do it, and McDonald's will try to make them all do it exactly their way, and the ones that go under are the ones that don't. But that's not what happens inside of a wirehouse or other places. This guy's got his little niche, and this lady's got her niche, and they kind of do their own little thing, even though they use the bigger banner. At the Financial Enhancement Group, it is truly a team of 29 people who are working together to try to make sure that we are able to use our specialized knowledge in a way to help you in your area. When I say specialized, there's things that I know that Grant doesn't focus on. And there's clearly things that Grant, who's answering your questions tonight, if you're watching us on the live stream, there's things that Grant knows that, frankly, I don't know. And we want to fix that. We want to make sure that we have the knowledge and the information to be able to solve all problems and challenges that come forth. So every other week, we have a planning team meeting. People have to bring forth what they learned that was new and different, something that they've seen change inside of the world. We're going to talk about that later in the show, as a matter of fact. But we're going to bring forward ideas, concepts, and things that we have seen and make sure that we're in good order. And then what we do is build an internal checklist. I don't like reinventing the wheel. So, for instance, Darren Hardesty is one of our associate advisors, and Darren happens to be working with one of my families where an ABLE account made sense. Now, I can tell you what an ABLE account is. I can give you the brief synopsis, but when we're doing financial planning, we need a detailed synopsis. And so I said, Darren, I can do that. I'm in charge. I said, Darren, go build me a checklist. And so Darren came back with a 2 or 3 page checklist of here's all the things that we need to do to help your family in the event that you would have a condition where you would need to use the ABLE provision for a disabled child. Or beneficiary that was out there. Then we take that and we turn it into a checklist of things that you need to consider. You don't get the 3 pages of the internal document that we have, but you can get a checklist for free at our website, yourlifeafterwork.com, that essentially says, here are things that you need to consider. Now, our job is to try to help you understand the challenges and really the truths of life. Things change all the time, and we need to be prepared for that. But that's where those checklists really come into play. So you can get one of those checklists.
How do inherited assets differ from gifts?
So the only time an inherited asset is different if you get it during life, or it's inherited if somebody died. It's a gift if you gave it during life. Typically, those are the words that we would use. So if I bought this coffee cup and I paid $10 for the coffee cup, and it was not in an IRA, not in a 401k, that $10 is known as basis or tax basis. I've already paid the $10 on that basis. Now, over a period of time, everybody admires my cup because it's here on the show every Tuesday night.
It is a nice cup.
And it's now worth $100 because of the good old power of inflation and everything else, right? If I gave that to you during life, I said, Angie, I'm going to give you my coffee cup, right? And you didn't sell it, you didn't do anything with it, then you wouldn't care. But if you were going to use it as an asset, a stock or a bond or a type of investment that for some other reason, your basis is my basis. My basis transfers to you. So suddenly your basis is now $10 a share. On the other hand, if I died and I left it to you in my will or my trust, and I said, I want this to go to Angi Kinser because she's admired my coffee cup for so long, it's still worth $100. That didn't change, but you get what's called a step up in basis so that you can now sell my coffee cup. Don't you dare. You could sell my coffee cup, and if you got the $100, you wouldn't have to pay any taxes. Right? That's the difference. Key thing is that has nothing to do with IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, those type of assets you can't give away during life. They have to be transferred at death or, sadly enough, via divorce with what's called a quadro or qualified domestics relation order.
Okay, we talked about the cup, but besides, say, stocks, and what other assets appreciate? I mean, that we do.
Houses, farm ground, office buildings, collectibles get to be very, very touchy, and we try to stay away from that. But we see a lot of cases where people will take their house, and this is one where we get into the legacy planning side a little bit more than an appreciated asset. But they'll just walk up and they'll put their kid's name on the house. And a lot of people do that unknowing that you're actually making a gift. So, let's say Angie's married to some crazy guy named Rob that doesn't like me and I don't like him, but we both like Angie, right? And they're married. And Angie's my daughter. And I decide I want to make sure that Angie gets the house if I die. So I put Angie's name on my house. Now we have two problems. One, it just became a marital asset in the court's eyes. Sometimes, not always. Some of you are out there going, "Oh no, it doesn't." Well, sometimes it does. It depends on the judge. Depends on the divorce. But suddenly, Rob now has an interest in my house, if for no other reason, because your name's attached to it. Secondly, I made a gift of part of my house. The IRS would perceive it as a gift of half of the value of the house. By the way. I made a gift of half of the house to you. So there's a much better way to do that with what's called a ladybird deed. You can do that with a local attorney, just where you're putting essentially a beneficiary designation on your home. I'm not giving Angie control, but if I died, kick the bucket, she would get the house, again with that step up in basis. Much, much better way to do it. Indiana does allow that now. You can work with attorneys, and if you want to know more, and again, I'm not an attorney, don't play one on radio nor TV. So I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just giving you some ideas of how to deal with those assets.
As far as taxes go, does it matter what your relationship is to the deceased?
In terms of the deceased, it doesn't anymore. Never has in terms of the federal laws. I shouldn't say that. If I'm skipping over you and going to your kids, right? That's generation skipping, and there's some special tax imposed that goes there if we're dealing with lots and lots of money. Most families, that's not going to be an issue. In Indiana, the further you went away from the bloodline, when we had inheritance tax, the more it cost. So if I left you money, not my sister, not my kid, right, not my niece, if I left you money, it would cost more than, you would have to pay more in inheritance tax than what my niece would have to pay, than what my daughters would have to pay. Now, Indiana has no inheritance tax, so that's all gone. Right? But that used to really be there, and there's people who still believe that it exists.
Wow. So as far as tax-wise, what is the best way to receive an asset?
So what you always want to do, what I sit down with people when they say they want to make a gift, and this is really your job. You do not want to mess this up, folks. You're already trying to be generous. You're trying to be kind. You're trying to take your hard work. You've done the heavy lifting. You've saved and accumulated the money and the asset, and you're trying to make a gift to Angie, right? And in what happens is people try to think about this car or this house or this office building or this stock or this CD or this cash. Typically it's cash. People will say, hey, I want to give Angie $15,000 because I heard I could give her that. Right? She has to deal with Joe every week. Somebody ought to give her $15,000. I mean, that's, she's agreeing, imagine that. Our job at the Financial Enhancement Group is to sit down looking at your assets, looking at your taxes, and looking at Angie's taxes. Don't forget this is a twofold thing. Looking at both the returns and looking at what you have as financial assets and saying, okay, if you want to give her X amount of dollars, this is the best way to make that happen. Sometimes that is cash. Sometimes that's a transference of assets. Sometimes it's exchanging the value in a house, right? We've seen people be able to do some things that are there. But your age, Angi, is the recipient matters, whether there's a kiddie tax issue or not. We dealt with that actually in a family today. So you really have to be aware of what it is, but always start with the vision of the gift. Why do I want to give you $15,000 in the first place? That is a determination that you have to make. Now, then you come to me or my team and say, okay, what's the best way to make that gift? What's the best asset and what's the best way to get it to Angi? Same thing that we would do inside of the charitable gifting world. Based on the assets that you have and the age you are, helps us determine where the assets should come from to make gifts. And then you turn around on top of that and decide what's the best way to do it for the annual tax return. And so there's a lot of chess being played in this game. You can play checkers and maybe have some regrets, or you can play chess and try to win the game. And that's really our job. But you can get the checklist to at least give you some things to consider.
What about appreciated stock? I mean, how do you even receive that?
How do I give it to you? You mean? We would open up an account from you, and I would transfer it from my account to your account directly. So the Apple stock would go from me into you. Again, because it was at Life, your basis would be my basis. Think about the coffee cup.
Thinking of the cup.
Do not confuse it with. Don't make it so complex as stock. If I made the gift to you during Life, you got the coffee cup, but your basis is what my basis was.
Okay.
If you got it at death, it's the other way around. Hey, give Angi a call at 800-928-4001. Get signed up for your Next Steps meeting. We look forward to seeing you. We'll tell you what you need to consider today, things you're going to want to consider in the future, and if we choose to partner together, what FEG will do for you, and we'll put it in writing. 800-928-4001. We'll be right back.
I have a great movie recommendation.
Uh-oh.
It's on Netflix right now. The Queen's Gambit. It's
I
about
saw that
chess.
advertised.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And it's this girl that grows up to be the best chess player in the world. So it is amazing.
Let's not be telling the whole story.
No, that's what
Spoiler alert.
No spoiler alert.
I
That's
think
what you'll get on the
trailer. It did say
trailer.
that she was pretty brilliant in the trailer, I believe.
She's just
brilliant.
It's just the way they put it together, so good.
I love those kind of movies where you're able to see somebody come from, out of the blue and do something so incredible.
Well, and not only that, I don't play chess. I mean, I don't even remember how to play chess. I used to play with my dad when I was younger, but I was really interested in what move was going to come next because they were able to bring in the viewer, even if you weren't a chess player. That's how good it was.
I gotta like it. Okay, what's next?
Not understanding new changes in the Indiana College Choice Plan can cost you.
Here we go. Casey. Hello and welcome back to Consider This Program. I'm your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Angi Kinser.
We are happy to have you along. Hey, I don't know. I think I've shared this on the radio before. So if I have, forgive me. If I haven't, then probably shame on me. But I started my career in 1987, 2 weeks before the crash. And I know I saw some people after the crash before the end of the year. But the first person I remember seeing was a single mom who was a school teacher in Indianapolis, Indiana. And this is back when I went to people's houses. I'm not able to do that anymore. We have multiple offices that you can come visit. And I went to her house and I knocked on her door at the apartment and I went in and there were all the pictures you can imagine, all the pictures of her son. She was so proud of him and loved him. And I remember the smile and the hospitality. And I remember her getting me coffee and all of the nice stuff that was going. Now, my job was to go in to help review for her something that somebody else years and years ago had sold her. It was called an annuity, and it was in a contract called a 403B. Now, a 403B is a lot like a 401k, except it's for school teachers, nurses, not-for-profits, and things like that. And so I go in and I'm seeing her and this lady, and I know my family are all school teachers. If you didn't know that, there's like 29 on my mom's side of the family. It's insane. That's the family business. So the joke was I was the first one to get out of the business, and then I taught at Purdue and got back into the business. So I've done my stint of teaching 7 years as a professor at Purdue. Anyhow, I'm here with this mom and her son, and she's putting in a bunch of money into this 403B contract. And I look at her and I go, explain to me why you're putting so much into this contract. And she, very, proudly, and she should have been proud. I mean, when you guys save and accumulate money, you're saying no to something today, something you could have been doing today, a new car you could have been buying, a bigger house, a vacation you could have gone on, eating somewhere besides taking lunch to work. You could be going out to eat with your friends. You have sacrificed and given up. And I know most of you say, Joe, it wasn't that hard. I get it, but you made some tough decisions along the way. And if you don't think you did, your kids did when you told them no, right? I got to experience that myself. Right? So anyhow, she's doing this heavy lifting. And so she was proud of the amount of money that she saved, and she should have been. And she bought this 403B contract in 1984, right? It's now 1988, beginning of the year. It's not been that long, ladies and gentlemen. It has not been that long. And I ask her why she's saving so much money. And again, excited, she explains to me that she is saving that money for her kid's college, for her son that she's so proud of. That's going to be the money to be able to put him through school so that he has the ability to go out and be able to have a better life. She's trying to give him a leg up, if you will. And, here I am, 22 years old. And I'm thinking to myself, how do I tell this lady that she can't do what she's doing? And I broke into the conversation as easily as I could. And I got to be the one to explain to her that she would endure a 10% federal penalty plus full taxation to take money out of that 403B to put her kid to school. Now, at first, there was disbelief and shock because now it's like in her mind, she's thinking, well, that means you tell me the first guy lied, right? And then she's mad at him because now he took advantage of her, right? He did something that he shouldn't have done. And then she's frustrated with me. And then she's mad at the world. And you can just watch the redness grow. The tears begin to swell as she's sitting there going, how in the world could this have happened to me? He told me what I could do. I did everything that was right. I sacrificed, and yet here I am. And ladies and gentlemen, that is my definition of a financial regret. Things change, and you have to understand that they change. Money that she'd put in up to 1986, when the tax code was changed, was grandfathered in. But the money after 1986 and the growth on that money, up to that period of time, the money that she'd put in the last 2 years was not grandfathered in. And she didn't feel that that was fair or just or anything else. I get that. But part of reducing financial regrets is helping you understand and keeping up on things when things change. So earlier this year, I introduced to you what came out of the Secure Act. The Secure Act, so you had a huge tax code change at the end of December of 2017. The Tax Cuts and Job Act, right? That was 2017, effective January 1 of 18. December 20th, I think it was, of last year, it seems like a long time ago, in 19, we had the Secure Act. And then followed by the CARES Act in response to the COVID crisis in March of 2020. In the Secure Act, one of the things they said is you could now use 529 plans to be able to pay up to $10,000 of student debt, right? And one of the things that I shared with you early in the year is the state of Indiana had not ruled, but they almost always respond to what the federal government does. And so every CPA that I know of has followed suit with that opinion. If Angi said, can I use $10,000 of Avis 529 to pay toward school debt? My answer to you would have been yes, right? From a federal standpoint, you can. All of a sudden, last week, I get a phone call. Now, I don't answer phone numbers that I don't know. And I got a 47-second voicemail. And so when I clicked on the voicemail, it didn't begin with, if you want to be on the do not remove list. Instead, it was this nice lady's voice. And this nice lady was explaining to me, as a college choice advisor, right? We were calling to inform you that the state of Indiana has indeed ruled that you're not allowed to use the money to pay student debt. In other words, you would still have an Indiana tax penalty if you did that. And I'm going, holy cow. First of all, they called, right? They called. That just amazed me, right? But the second thing is, how could this happen and me not know it? And so, I've got a group of CPAs that we partner with and work with. I sent the information out. Brett Spangler, who's on our team at the Financial Enhancement Group, went to work. And sure enough, the state of Indiana ruled earlier this year that there was a change that was made. You can't do that. You will have a penalty that has to be endured if you take out money for student debt. And yet, nobody knew that. Even we weren't informed until the last minute, and none of the CPAs got there. So because we caught it this year, because we were prepared for it this year, there are solutions. There's things that you can do to remedy that problem and get money back in the plan. And that's the point that you have to know. We want to help you reduce financial regrets. That's why you're listening to the show.
We have a question. Why would Indiana not follow the federal law to allow us the ability to use our own account dollars to pay off student loans?
As a non-congressman, non-senator, I can't tell you that. I can tell you the logic that somebody might use to play devil's advocate, right? And that is the college choice program was put into place. Indiana College Choice and 529s were put into place. 529s were put into place to help you pay for Avis College. Mm-hmm. The Indiana College Choice gives you a 20% tax credit up to $5,000 a year for the $1,000 for the credit, a 20% credit on $5,000 in order to be able to fund that specific program. Now, you got to remember, one of Indiana's top 3, if not top 2 businesses, if you will, economies, is actually higher education. It's Butler, Purdue, Ball State, Indiana State, Notre Dame, right, and all these places. If you're using that for college education and tuition, they're taking money from one bucket and putting it in another bucket because the state has to fund a lot of that. Suddenly, if we're using that money now for debt, they're giving you a tax credit that's no longer fueling part of the economy, right? So even though that may not feel good and it may not sound fair and legit, my argument would probably be that was the logic that somebody used to say this is not a good idea.
Right. So back before the CARES Act, they had a list of qualified expenses that can be covered with your money in your 529.
When the CARES Act, it was a Secure Act.
Okay. So you could cover tuition, books, like your computer, mandatory fees. Mm-hmm. What are things that it doesn't cover?
If, like when Kaylee went to Ivy Tech doesn't have student housing, so you couldn't have used it for student housing. Mm-hmm. If she'd gone to Ball State and Ball State had student housing, even though she didn't stay on student housing, you can take up to the amount of money that Ball State would allow for student housing to be able to come out of the 529. Most things for higher education can be used there. The IRS is not, and nor the state of Indiana is trying to do anything that is below the belt or bad. They're not inherently bad people. They just have rules. And when you've got to run a budget, I mean, when you look at your own budget at home, Angie, you have to say no to this to say yes to this. When you put money in your 401k or you put money in your Roth IRA, you're saying no to something else that you could have done. And the state of Indiana is saying, no, we can't let you use that towards student debt and give people the tax credit on it. I get it. It's just a painful thing. My point, what I want you guys to take away from this is there are things that change. There are things that change in the 401k rules. There's things that change in the IRA rules. The amount you can contribute, the amount you can deduct. We had a family in last week that's been giving $10,000 a year gifts to their kids. Mm-hmm. And my paraplanner, who's never been around and since the rule's been $15,000 a year,
right,
says, "Oh, so you just wanted to give them $10,000?" And the person looks at him and goes, "No, that's all I can give every year." Well, that rule's been changed for over 10 years. I mean, it was 10,000, then 12,000, then 13,000, then 15,000, folks. Things change, and they could have given away over a period of time probably another $50,000 to $70,000 of assets out of their estate to their kids, and just didn't understand the rules. So we want you to understand. We want you to be on the right side of this trade. Give Angie a call at 800-928-4001. Go to our website, yourlifeafterwork.com. Get signed up for our Next Steps meeting. Grant, who's on the computer with us tonight, Aaron, Dean, Jamie, one of our senior advisors will be happy to sit down with you. They will go over the 5 critical elements: your life after work, an annual tax plan, the investment playbook, life happens, good, bad, and ugly of life, and the legacy plan. They'll give you things that you're going to want to consider today, things you're going to want to consider in the future, and if we choose to partner together, what FEG will do for you, and we'll put it in writing. 800-928-4001. Give Angi a call. Look forward to seeing you. Hey, folks, thanks for the question. It is a toughie. And if you couldn't see, hopefully people could hear the emotion, but walking in and watching that lady, that teacher, and what the agony that she was going through with her son is more than I want you to handle. It is just not right. And I can't keep up on changes that go on with my with the technology in my TV, or the things that happen in my car, or, some of the stuff that happens around our house. We all have different things that we do. And the IRS is not going to send you an email and say, hey, Joe, pay attention. You got to have somebody else who's paying attention. You don't want to read their emails, right? We help reduce financial regrets. We do that for a reason. All right, Angi, you're ready for the outro.
Yeah.
Fastest hour in radio.
If I can just throw a couple more of my little
All right. All right, Casey. Welcome back to Your Life After Work. Yeah, there you go. YourLifeAfterWork.com. You should go there. But welcome back to Consider This Program. I'm your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Angi Kinser.
Happy to have you along. All right, it is Election Day. That's the day we're streaming this live. If you're listening on podcast or at a later period of time, it is Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. We do not know the outcome yet. All we know is that Angi was at the polls for 4 hours. I was there at 5:21 this morning. There were already 17 people in front of me, about 250 people behind me when I got out the door. It has been a crazy, crazy day. It'll probably be a crazy, crazy evening. I'm praying for civil rest as opposed to unrest.
I'm praying for regular rest because we might be up late.
We could be up late. Go ahead, Angi. You've got a couple more trivia.
We had a couple of election trivia. In Brazil, you have the right to vote at 16. And they've done studies that show that giving young people the ability to vote results in more engaged citizens as they grow older. So they've left it at 16.
I will buy that. The sooner you get used to making a habit, the longer it will probably last.
Now, I don't know, Estonia, there was a movie about this, but votes can be cast online because every citizen is given a scannable ID and PIN number. And so they do a lot of their voting online, so they don't have to wait in lines.
They don't have to wait in line to go. Yeah, I can't imagine there being any voter fraud at all in a scannable world. There's a reason Bitcoin is Bitcoin and has to go through all of the blockchain and everything else. I can't imagine.
Now, here's my last one because I'm thinking this is going to change after today. But the United States ranks 31st out of 35 OECD nations for voter turnout. Our average is 53.6% of Americans voted, which were in the last election. In contrast, for example, Belgium, they were 87.2%.
I like in the introduction tonight, you talked about the places that got fined if they didn't vote, right? So,
Australia.
I kind of like that in Australia, frankly. But I don't know about encouraging younger people to vote. I want to encourage some people not to vote if they can't answer certain questions. You know that. I have a bias against incompetency.
This is funny, though. In North Korea, they actually do hold an election. However, the ballot is already filled out for you, but they make the people put it in the box.
It's your world. If you're a walking god in North Korea, you can do whatever you want, I suppose. God bless. Hey, folks, thank you for tuning in, and good luck with the election tonight. May your wishes come true as soon as possible. Let's just pray for civil arrest and not a lot of destruction. There's a lot of people very, very, very scared tonight as we go to bed. 800-928-4001. Give us a call. Thanks for being around. Take care. Well, folks, we appreciate you being on and the questions that are out there. Don't forget, you get to watch the streaming so you understand what's really going on. We are more than happy to sit down. And the next steps meeting is complimentary. It's not a joke. Give Angi a call at 800-928-4001. Get signed up for your meeting. We will be more than happy to sit down and talk with you and share some information. Have a great week and take care of yourselves. We'll see you soon.